Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast, where we are going to talk about something that unfortunately pains my heart, and it is the utter downfall of Los Angeles, California. You know, I think I've told this story before, but if I haven't, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of it. But my first trip to LA, when it was time to go, I literally sat looking out the window of the Cadillac Hotel, this old stucco, um, kind of run down but nice enough hotel that was, still there, right on the beach in Venice Beach. And from the third floor out the window, you can see all 27 miles of the Malibu coastline, the coastline between Palisades, all up to Malibu. Beautiful ocean, Santa Monica Piers right outside your window. And I was from Iowa. You know, I had never seen anything like this. If you know anything about Iowa, it's, 9 months of marble skies and, probably just as many months of winter, it seems like. Brutal summers, very sparsely populated. My graduating class, like I said, it was like 42 people, So when I first came to Los Angeles, it was weird because I remember landing at the airport, and like any big city, the airport's an airport. It seems overcrowded and probably not the best neighborhood. Inglewood surrounds the airport, so I didn't really know what I was driving into. And I had heard that I was first going to be staying at the Riot House, which is the Hyatt on Sunset, very legendary rock and roll hotel, known for a lot of things. The scene in the movie Spinal Tap, where they have their album release party, and there's a swimming pool on top of the hotel. That's the Riot House, they call it. That's the Hyatt on Sunset. It's also where Robert Plant historically yelled, "I am a golden god." It's where TV was chucked out the window. There's a lot of rock and roll history and heritage to it. And so I was super excited to go there. And when you leave the airport, you hop on the 405, and that's a parking lot, and that's scary. And so right away, I was not impressed. I was like, this is horrible. This place is just packed. And I just went through Inglewood, which was a rough neighborhood. And then we got off La Cienega, and we're heading north to Sunset. And I know that at the top, just from doing my research, I know that at the top of Sunset, that's the Hollywood Strip, or the Sunset Strip, which of course is legendary for all the rock clubs and hotels. And so as we're getting closer and closer, I'm seeing the skyline of the Hollywood Hills, and it's getting cooler, man. You're starting to feel those vibes, It's cool, And then by the time, we hit the Sunset Strip, it was dark out, and it was everything that I thought it was going to be. And I walked through the doors of the Sunset Strip, and the first person I literally, damn near bumped chests with is Little Richard. Little Richard. And I would come to find out later on that he lived there. He lived on I think this is the third floor. You can Google it. There's information about it out there on the web, but I think it was the third floor. Room 319, if my memory serves me correctly. But yeah, ran right into Little Richard. The following morning, we had a rehearsal in which Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters were next to us, and I ended up getting the chance to sit and just kind of shoot the shit about the industry with Dave Grohl for, probably 20, 30 minutes, and he met my manager as well. Actually came into our rehearsal and listened to us rehearse, and I was on cloud nine. But what really sealed the deal for me is when we were done that evening, Kurt said, "I want to take you down to the beach." And, you hop back on La Cienega, and you cruise down to the 10 west. And like so many people before me have done, you get off on the 4th Street exit, you take a right at Pico, which runs right into Ocean Avenue. And the most beautiful vision. Oh man, I mean, just you could see the curve of the world, the ocean. You take a ride on ocean, and it's nothing but palm trees that are just, the highest palm trees you've ever seen. Um, there's the Viceroy. There's all these, the Hotel California. There's like, it's everything you've ever thought of like California. It's just absolutely amazing. And I made myself a promise then that I was going to find a way in my lifetime to live right on that corner, right on Ocean Avenue. Because, it's surrounded with hotels as well. I mean, people come from all over the world to experience this little corner of California, this little just beautiful section where they're not building any more land. You know what I mean? It's like whatever's there is there. And if you're fortunate enough to visit, then, who's better than you? It's that beautiful. And that became a goal. And it was a goal that, 15 years later I would realize. And through a lot of hard work and through relationships and building relationships and through a relationship that Laura had actually, we were able to land our little piece of Ocean Avenue, which is right where I live today. And it felt amazing. It felt amazing to be moving back into that area that, as an 18-year-old boy, I sat at a window crying because I didn't want to leave. Everything felt possible out here. Everything was so beautiful. The weather was beautiful. The energy that people had. Just, I was surrounded by artists and everybody, we all came here with the same goal. We were going to take our talents and put them to the test. Because you can make it anywhere in the world, but there's nothing like making it in Los Angeles. This is where the best come. When it comes to arts and entertainment, whether you're an editor, a filmmaker, a writer, a musician, a singer, whatever, the best in the world are here. So if you can carve out a lane here of any kind, you are amongst the best in the world. And that's just a fact. Nobody sets out to be a filmmaker or a musician and says, man, I want to be, the best in Lebanon, or I want to be the best in Spain, or I want to be the best in Mexico. I mean, no one says if I can just, climb the ladder in New Zealand. It's Hollywood, man. This is where it's at. So I love that energy, and I didn't at the time where I was crying. It wasn't crying necessarily sad tears. I mean, I was sad because I didn't want to come back, but it was just more like I found my home. I found my place, and there's a lot of reasons that as a young boy, I was kind of confused as to what my place in the world would be, but those questions were definitely answered here. So when I finally moved out here, it was awesome because, I'd wake up and every morning, every single morning, felt like a holiday. Felt like a vacation. No matter how bad or how rough the day was, I still had that sunset to look at night, and I still knew that tomorrow everything could change. Everything could change. And I've had a couple of those moments where you think you're at your lowest, and the next thing you know, you're working for Steven Spielberg. I've had, you think a project's over, and the next thing you know, you're directing and co-starring, in Paranormal State, and which at the time was, one of the most top-rated paranormal shows in the world. I've had those moments where, You're out on tour and you're selling out venues that you bought tickets to as a child. It's like those things, all those dreams and accomplishments were all rooted here in Los Angeles. So there's a place in my heart for Hollywood and LA and the dream and everything that this city, represents and represented to me when I first came out here. And I got to tell you, over the last 16 years, I have watched as the majority of the things about this city that are wonderful are just being strangled by the things that are going on in the city, the leaders of the city, the policies of the city. It started, the first thing I noticed was food was just getting incredibly expensive. I remember walking back one day and just saying to Laura, is there anywhere else in America that people are charging, $7, $8 for a gallon of milk? And this was after actually a return trip back to Iowa I had for business, where I just couldn't believe how cheap things were. And shortly after this story came out in the news, I remember this was years ago, about why the food prices were going up, and it was just all things that could could be addressed. It should have never happened, but slowly just everything started going up. When I first moved out here, it was a bachelor that Laura and I lived in, with a little Murphy bed, and it was $1,200 a month. And I remember we got that because when we first moved out here, I didn't have any income. I was a struggling artist, and so there was Laura's income as a school teacher, which, while she made more out here per scale, school teachers they don't make a lot. It's just not it doesn't have a high ceiling for salary, and we were fine with that. I was fine with that. To me, it was just, I was fortunate as hell that I had a girl that believed in my ability as a filmmaker and wanted me to focus on that. So we were able to survive, on living in a bachelor. And I remember back then, a one-bedroom apartment, which, we had hoped to get, was around $1,500 to rent. Today, 15 years later, a one-bedroom apartment starts around $2,700 to $3,000 in this area in Santa Monica, within 4 or 5 blocks of the beach. Of course, it pushes out, anybody who is young and kind of, struggling to make their way. And I started noticing that a lot of the artists that lived in Venice and Santa Monica, including many that were friends of mine, were being forced into the valley. And the valley is hard living, man. It is hot there. It is so hot. The air quality is horrible in the valley. It's constant air warnings that they'll get, where to breathe the air, they'll tell you, don't go outside for longer than a half hour today because the air quality is so bad. And again, I remember thinking way back then, man, they got to get this under control, because this is only going to get worse and worse with time, And I also started noticing that the homeless percentage, like the amount of homeless people that you would see, was steadily increasing constantly. And whenever that happens, obviously there's a question mark as to why. Why are there not programs? Why are there not, situations that, these people can get involved with to help them out? Especially when you consider that California has, it's like the 4th or 5th largest economy in the world. So why would there be, a homeless epidemic going on? Why can we not provide some way to help? And then it was weird. All of a sudden, there was just no homeless anywhere. And I started wondering why. I'm like, why have I not seen a homeless person forever? And this is probably 5 or 6 years ago. And it turns out that there was some policy that the elected officials voted on where they weren't arresting the homeless people in Santa Monica or Marina del Rey or Malibu because their jails are full. So what they were doing is they were literally dropping them off downtown. They would take them 9 miles inland and drop them off downtown. And they would just keep them out of the quote unquote rich communities. Again, I just sat back and said, this is a horrible idea. Like, who did this? Like, who decided just keep them hidden? But this happened. And, I'm steadily just watching these things occur, and rent is increasing, and there's becoming, definitely a massive gap between the wealthy and the poor, and it's, growing every day. And it got to the point, I remember like 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, it just dawned on me that unless you grossed, over 200,000, unless you made a net of 100,000 a year, you don't have a hope of living down here and getting by. I mean, you would need that just to get by, and that's ridiculous, man. There should never be a city where if you don't, make a certain amount of money, that's a lot, that you can't exist in that city other than to be a tourist, And that was when I started getting involved in local politics and looking at who I could support and who had the right ideas and who, really wanted to help the homeless out specifically with drug treatment. And because 90% of homeless, the problem is drugs. The problem is that they're addicted to drugs. They came across a horrible situation in life and things went south for them. And I'm a firm believer this can happen to anybody. And so I just started getting involved in local politics as far as like just, doing my homework on who there was to vote for and who there wasn't. And it was just amazing to me. Again, I don't know if it's that really smart people just avoid politics because it's a horrific profession, but all I saw everywhere was just ways to make the rich get richer and to just ignore the real problems. And I've seen this happen in California over and over and over again until you get a situation where you have the filthy rich running the state, running the city, and they have no connection whatsoever to, the lower middle class to lower class to the just straight up disenfranchised. They have no idea how hard life is for the average person that's just struggling to put food on the table. They don't know. And every level of office is ran by these just uber wealthy people that have so much. Don't get me wrong, I don't have an issue with becoming wealthy. I'm not a rich man. Together, Laura and I do okay. I'm not rich in any way, though. Do I plan on being rich in my lifetime? Absolutely. Because I would like to not only take care of myself in a way and knock off things on the bucket list, but I would like to help others. And I've also met, and worked with some very wealthy people that do that are incredibly giving with their money. But that's not the standard. It's not, at least in California. And how politics work out here is whenever there's an issue, they just raise taxes and the money just disappears and nobody knows where it goes. And we're told that it's doing things, but we never see the results. I mean, they're talking about now raising the taxes out here to like 54%, like over half of my income I would have to give to the state. And they're like, we have all kinds of new initiatives that we want to do to address the homeless. Let me, I'm going to throw a number at you here, and this is real, okay? From 6 months ago to right now, the homeless population in Los Angeles has grown from 60,000 to 70,000. Since March, there have been 10,000 more homeless people that have already joined the ranks of the 60,000 homeless people that are in Los Angeles. And there's nothing for them. There's no beds, guys. There's no programs. There's no drug clinics. There's not enough food to feed any of them. They're sleeping in their own shit. They're sleeping in rats. I did a podcast earlier about how the bubonic plague was at risk of coming back. Well, they've just had their first human plague case. That just happened. And now what's going on is, because they've been dropping them all off in Skid Row, it's just gotten too big. There's nowhere left in Skid Row, so the homeless population is now migrating. And where are they migrating? Of course, back towards the beach, back towards where the nicer restaurants are, where they can get better food out of trash cans. And now the tent cities and the encampments are beginning to spill over onto the beaches. And of course, no one's going to take their kids out to the beach. Tourism is going to die if that happens. But they're trying to crack down on it. But you know what? The facts are, where do these people go? Where do they go? The city's policy is to treat them like they're cockroaches. Just hope they scatter when the lights come on, and then find ways to just, kick them under the table, kick them in the corner, kick them in the closet. Well, you can only do that until the closet's full. And now they're coming out. And now we got a real issue in the middle of this, I'm not going to say the word, but the situation that began in the reason I don't call what the sickness is because you get demonetized for it, but we all know what I'm talking about, the reason we're wearing these masks. Now this hit, and now, the state, for some reason that makes absolutely no sense to me, completely shuts down. We have been shut down since March 15th. Okay, listen to what I'm saying. We have been shut down since March 15th. Stay-at-home order. We're still under a stay-at-home order right now. A story just came out yesterday that over 60% of the businesses that were listed in Yelp, 60% of them are gone. They are out of business. Gone. Over 240 businesses in my city alone are now gone. 240. Yesterday, I watched a neighbor of mine bawl their eyes out. Bawl their eyes out as they packed up their stuff to leave because they never, ever, ever wanted to leave the beach. This was their life's dream. They love this place, but the facts are they don't have work and they don't know when money's coming back. And they also have months and months and months that they owe in back rent, and they know they're not going to be able to pay it all up. So they're moving into a better situation. Bawling. I'm not saying a grown person. And they didn't do anything. They didn't create this. And what has the state of California done for them? Nothing. 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 And this gal also was on unemployment, and she brought up something to me which I already knew about because it affects any state employees, including Laura, is that the state of California, they have this antiquated payment system that they, send direct deposits for. And it's all the same system. And this girl was freaking out because basically the state just sent a letter out saying, hey, because she had just applied for unemployment. And the state had sent a letter saying, hey, we know Everybody thought they were going to get their unemployment payment on this day, but it's going to be 2 weeks because we're updating our antiquated payment system with software that is 30 years old. Guys, again, please Google this. This is out of Gavin Newsom's mouth, that they're not paying anybody that's on a state paycheck just out of the blue at the end of the month for 2 weeks because they're updating software that is 30 years old. Like I said, it's the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world. And at the end of the month, they decide they're just now going to update their antiquated payment system. And they tell people, oh, it'll take 2 weeks. Well, here's the thing. This is what I mean by the disconnect. This is what I mean by the disconnect. To a person like Gavin Newsom, who is incredibly wealthy and who just illegally gifted himself a $3.7 million mansion through his brother's company that was given to him, literally given to him, it's nothing for him to go, oh, it's going to take a couple weeks? Okay, we'll just let everybody know it'll just be a couple weeks to hang tight. To the mother of 2 or 3 or even 1 or just to the single guy working, to pay his bills, to everybody who's been told to stay home, that they can't go work unless their job is, considered essential. Like, to the wealthy, to the uber wealthy, 2 weeks is nothing. To the person who's got $2 in his wallet and he's waiting for his, unemployment checks, or for the other state employees that are waiting on their checks for the essential jobs that they're, like, 2 weeks is an eternity. 2 weeks is such a long time when you don't have money and food and no way to get it. And it's interesting. I said to Laura, if I'm outraged by this, I can't imagine the rage and anger that is felt by those who have been decimated by this entire situation. I can't imagine. And guys, it's funny. I woke up this morning and I went down to the AM/PM just to grab a pack of smokes and to grab a soda. And look at the screen right now. You see this? This is a door that the glass is completely blown out. Now, again, I live on Ocean Avenue. I live in a very nice area. Probably one of the top 4 or 5 neighborhoods in all of Los Angeles. Okay? I know the corner store guys. And Philippe was working that day. I said, yo, Philippe, what up? And he said, I got crazy this morning. And I said, what's going on? And he said, a homeless dude. I go, oh, shit, what happened? I go, he came inside and he, begged me for something to eat. Was there something I could give him for free? He had no money and he was just starving. And he was like, is there anything at all you can give me? And he goes, well, we didn't have any food here, man. So I went to the back and I just got him a cold glass of water. That's all I could, give him. And he said he walked out and he drank the water. He put the cup there. And he came back and he had a brick in his hand. Just mad as shit. And just fired the brick, through the glass. And started screaming about how unfair it was that there's food right there and all he wants is one bite to eat. No one can help him. No one can do it. And of course, that's not the right way to handle it. But at the same time, do I have empathy for a starving man? Yes. Yes. And so did Philippe. Philippe was like, man, I talked to my boss and he said, they make sandwiches and egg sandwiches and breakfast sandwiches. And he said, we do have, after a certain time period, if they're not bought, they just get thrown away. So I talked to my boss to see if we can do something, and we're working on. And I was like, dude, see, there's an answer. There's a guy that's trying. Some dude that says, how do we help? How can we help? If no one else in the state's going to help, how can we help? But it's that realization that LA is just not, it's overwhelmingly expensive. There's, zero help for, you know, the homeless, the disenfranchised. Crime is going through the roof right now. I don't know if you guys recently saw the footage of the guy that just walked up to two police officers and just shot him. Just boom, boom, right through the window and took off running. Just so you guys know, that one made national news. That's not the first time that's happened. That's like the ninth police officer in the last 2 weeks that's been gunned down. And that's what's going on down here. They're just gunning down cops now. This whole the Black Lives Matter movement, the protests, they have turned ultra violent. And now the violence continues to spill into neighborhoods like mine, and it's going to continue to. And I understand that because there's no one addressing any of this. How could the homeless population go from 60,000 to 70,000 without Gavin Newsom waking up and going, guys, today we gotta solve this. We need food, we need water, we need medicine, we need to figure out something. We need to figure out a way to set up showers for these people. We need to do something. We can't just sit here. These people are dying. And if they're not physically dying, their fucking soul is dying. Which is worse. And Gavin Newsom's telling everybody, we'll get you paid in a couple weeks. We're working on our old computer systems. I'm going to go back home to my $3.7 million house. We're going to be good, everybody. Oh, by the way, I'm going to raise all your taxes to 54%. Because we don't want to actually plan and figure this out. We just want to throw money at shit. So everyone's leaving. Everyone's leaving LA. They don't like the crime. They don't like the homeless. They don't like the laws. It's been mismanaged. There's no, social structure that helps people. They're all leaving. And I could see it, man. The energy has changed. Above all that, from when I came here, as a young kid and felt that energy of chance, that energy of excitement, that energy of possibility, it has changed. And there is an energy of resentment. There is an energy of frustration, of anger, of disgust, and you can feel it everywhere. There's fights everywhere. Laura just went to the corner store for like the second or third time. Just going to the corner store, the fight breaks out over who's wearing a mask and who's not, over who's voting for Trump and who isn't. California as it is right now, specifically Los Angeles, it's unsustainable and it's crumbling. And it is going to burn unless things change dramatically. And that breaks my heart, man. That breaks my heart because I don't want to leave here. I want that feeling again. I want to see that excitement in young people's eyes. I want, that new crowd of dreamers to come here tomorrow. I want, people to feel what I felt. And right now, it's gone. It's just a place with really, really rich people and a few people that are getting by and mostly poor people that are angry and sick and upset. And a bunch of politicians that aren't doing jack shit to help anybody, that have no connection to people on the ground level. And it's just, man. I worry about that undercurrent of anger. Very few things hurt as badly as the relinquishment of a dream. And I worry about that undercurrent of anger and frustration and pain that comes with so many dreams dying at once. And now it's not even about, what can I achieve? It's how do I eat? How do I get to next month? How do I survive? How do I do that? And no one cares. Like, it just, I worry about that because it takes one spark, man. It takes one spark, one person, yeah, to just lead something really, really negative. And we've seen it in bits and pieces. We've seen riots and shootings and all this stuff here, and it's been growing and growing and growing to the point where LA is now a tinderbox and it's ready to explode. And everyone's leaving, man. You're seeing it, like all the, you know, all the big heavy comedians and actors and musicians, and they're all bailing. They're all getting out of Los Angeles. A lot of the big money players. Elon's leaving. I mean, and the fact that they're letting Elon go is ridiculous. I mean, and he saw the ignorance with his boring company. He started out, the first thing he wanted to do was to build a tunnel to LAX. And the city said, yeah, go ahead, awesome, we're behind you. And he came out and he built this short run tunnel and he took people for a ride on it, did this big display. And once the city saw that he knew what he was doing, he could actually do it, they hit him with a ton of red tape right after he did his display. You know what he did? He said, you're going to red tape me? Look around you, man. No one can even travel on the 405 and the 10. And you're going to try to red tape me for solving your problem? He said, fuck you, and he shut down. He killed the whole project. And he said, I'm going to figure out how I get to Vegas because Nevada wants to work with me. And that's what he's doing now. And it's like, LA, you lost this opportunity for Elon Musk to solve our issue of going to the airport and back over red tape, over old school ways to get more money. You want more money from him? He has to pay you to fix our problem. He was like, I'm out of here. I'm done. I'm not doing this. And that sums up the problem with Los Angeles. Pure ignorance. People aren't in touch with the real situation. A lot of these billionaires, they don't ride that drive to the airport. They fly to their own private airports. Or they have helicopters that take them straight to the helipad in LAX. Then they get on their private jet. So they don't know that the rest of us spend hours waiting to pick a loved one up or to go to the airport if we take the 4 or 5 or the 10. Elon knew. Elon also, just sold all his stuff and he's moving into an apartment because he doesn't want to lose touch with what it's like to live a real life. Now, he can never live a real life like us, but he's trying, man. He's trying to not lose those roots. And that's important. It's important to understand how real people live every day. I shouldn't say real people. What I mean by is that people that are not of means, that are not of incredible wealth, how do they live every day? How do they survive? How does someone survive off $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month? Look, I hope things change, man. I don't want to leave this city. I want to be a part of the rebuilding of it now, and I want to bring that hope back. And I want to be a story of somebody who stayed and who fought through it and who was able to kind of finish his conquest and finish what I started and reach my goals through this city. But my God, they're making it hard. They are making it hard. And my fear is that we're a flagship, that if this is all going on here, it's just going to, it's just going to happen in other cities across the U.S., just like dominoes. That will be the first, and other cities are next. And I pray that's not the case. I really pray that's not the case. So let's all pray together, man, and get involved in your local elections. They say, elections have consequences, indeed. So get involved, try to find the right people, and, I always say change starts from the bottom up, not from the top down. So, maybe there's something you can do in your city to make things better. I'm constantly looking in mine, and I realize that's hard because we're all just trying to get by like anybody else. But it's got to start now. We got to, first and foremost, we got to get the people out. The people that are running things now that are completely out of touch, they got to go. They got to go one way or the other. So hang in there, guys. Much love to everybody. Really thinking about all of you. And, keep up the good fight, man. There's a lot to rebuild, but the beautiful thing is we can rebuild it. We can. Just get your hands dirty, get your elbows dirty, get in there and be a part of the solution. So, hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. I will be back tomorrow with another podcast, which we're going to be talking about this NXIVM sex cult. What a trippy story that is. I will see you then, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode. All the best.